yours, Mother.
My heartiest Hare Krishna and Dandat Pranams to all the devotees here. And I must thank the organizers there once again for giving me an opportunity. They're considering me for this opportunity to spread the holy name in some way. So my gratitude to them. So today, of course, we have met many times in the past, and today we are going to discuss something which any human being, any sane human being should really ponder. So it should be an interesting subject. What after death? I'll just start with the slideshow, Mataji. Just let me know how it is appearing there on the screen because I can't see it clearly. Mataji, is it visible clearly there?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. Thank you so much. So this time our topic is going to be what after death? What actually happens after death? Because in Bhagavad Gita, I'm sure you all are attending different sessions and classes on Bhagavad Gita. And in Bhagavad Gita, it is very clearly mentioned that it's only the material body which gets destroyed, but the soul is eternal. It doesn't get destroyed by anything. So the death, which is a destruction of material body, it does not mean or pronounce the death of soul. Mataji, I'm so sorry, but I can hear a lot of disturbance in the background. Yes, thank you so much. Now it's better. So even if the so-called death happens, which is the death or destruction of the material body, the soul continues its journey. So what is exactly happening after that? We will try to understand that. And I have divided this presentation in a few parts. This is part 1. So in this one, we will study or try to understand the first 13 days of its journey. What happens after the death has taken place in the first 13 days. And in the second part, we will try to see what happens after that. Altogether, in the 1 year span, what all happens, that will form, those details will form the second part of our session. In this one, we are going to study only the first 13 days. Since there is a lot of difference in the nature of its journey, so I have divided it into 2 parts. It may not be equal. One may think, why 13 days while rest of the session covers rest of the 253 days. But there's a big reason. As we proceed, when I unravel the things, everybody will be able to understand that. So here we start. What after death? And here you can see in the cover page, in the cover design, we can see the Kala Chakra, the chakra or the wheel of time. And Krishna says in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, wherein he shows his universal form, he says, I am the Kala. And Kala, in the form of Kala, he comes in the form of death. And he just devours everything. That's why death is all powerful. Nobody can escape it. So I have put that Kalosmi Lokakshaya Krita Pravridva, wherein Krishna is telling Arjuna that in the form of Kala, I destroy everything. Big universes are destroyed in the process. We are just a small, tiny soul. So now we will go into the details of that. So we'll take baby steps in understanding so that there is no mystery and there is clear understanding of what is happening and how it is happening. We'll try to understand our material body. And in Bhagavad Gita, since it's the manual of any human being, So we'll be referring to Bhagavad Gita here and then whenever it is required. There, Krishna, in the very second chapter, where he's giving the knowledge to Arjun about the soul, there he mentions, Dehinosmini yatha dehe, kaumaram yauvanam jara, tatha dehantara praptir, dhiras tatra na muhyati. Soul, and here in the translation, we can see Prabhupada is very clearly mentioning embodied soul. Means soul is inside, but it is having the covering of a body. It is embodied. And that outer covering, that is a material body. So that material body, that is continuously undergoing changes, the 6 changes, the Shadavikaras. It is born, and from birth, it moves on to boyhood, from boyhood to youth. It stays there for some time. It has its byproducts, and then the deterioration starts. It starts getting old, and finally, it results in the death. But this kind of changes, these Shadvikaras, these transformations are taking place only at the external level. Inside, there is soul that is not undergoing any changes, that remains eternal without any change. But these changes, when one body is destroyed and it moves on to another body, it appears very simple, but the process in between, the gap in between, that is also a very, very not exactly complex, but something worth knowing, that we should know what exactly happens between the 2 phases when one body is lost and the new body is yet to be taken. And here in this particular slide, through in the form of a picture, I have tried to cover the changes that take place in the material body of a person. We can see in this slide how the soul is there first in the womb, and then it takes birth, it's growing, and slowly to youth, staying stable for some time, and then byproducts, and we see the deterioration creeping in. Finally, the death is there. So change is the only constant, and those 6 transformations are there. Then knowing our material body to understand death. What are we made of? We have 2 bodies, gross body and subtle body. Means gross tattvas and subtle tattvas. Gross tattvas are those which we can see, we can feel, we can touch, like air, water, ether, fire, and earth. And there are subtle tattvas also, which we cannot see, but they definitely constitute our material body. That is mind, intelligence, and false ego. And then further, in every body, we have our own individual soul, Anu Atma, and then we have Vibhu Atma, super soul, or Paramatma. So these constituents are always there. And outside, the exterior of that soul is made up of that, what we said, embodied soul. So we have this gross body, the material body, which is made up of gross tattvas and subtle tattvas. And then what is happening at the time of death? What is death? It can be defined as a dissolution of a gross body to take up a new one. We are having one body, and when this one body which we are occupying now, this particular body, it gets destroyed, and then we are ready to take up a new one. That process of destruction of the present material body is called as death. And in Bhagavad Gita, the 2 general analogies that we see is of a tree, where material body is compared to a tree. And the second analogy is of a cloth. In the first analogy, we see that material body is compared to the tree where 2 birds are seated. One is the Jivatma, which is enjoying the fruit of its karma. And the other one is Paramatma, the super soul. It is watching, Upadrashta Anumantacha. So it's seeing as a Sakshi, and it is sanctioning whatever the actions are happening, but it's not participating. So the Jivatma, which is Vimukha to Paramatma, who is not turned towards the Lord, who is going against the instructions of the Lord, is the one who is busy eating the fruits of its karma. And the tree then later on, as the time passes on, while it thinks that it's enjoying, the whole life is gone. And finally, it is moved on or is made to change the tree from one tree to another. It keeps hopping. It goes on changing its body. And in the next one, in the next analogy, we see that the body is compared to a cloth. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani gृह्णाति naroparaani तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णानि अन्यानि सम्याति navani dehi. Generally, when we get a new cloth, we feel very happy. It's a matter of jubilation for us. But then when we get a new body, that time generally we are not happy, because the preceding period is not so happy, like not so much filled with happiness. There's a lot of discomfort involved. There's a lot of pain involved in that. We'll come to that. But this is a comparison given in the given in Bhagavad Gita for describing death. Generally, in many faiths, in many other faiths other than our Sanatan Dharma, many of them believe that death is an end. There's nothing after that. And many people who do not understand this truth, when they get fed up with many difficulties, they are not able to face it. They take the path of committing suicide because they have not understood what death is, what soul is. They think if we kill our body, if we destroy our body, all our miseries, all our lamentations will come to an end. But it's not so. In fact, one is out of the pan into the fire. It's like that. From one bad situation, we move on to a worse situation. We will come to that also and discuss in little more detail. So death is not an end. It's basically a transition from one body to another body. And here we come to preparation for new body. How do we prepare for that? What are the things involved in that? Even for short journeys also that we take, we prepare. If I have to cover a distance of say 100 kilometers also, I have to travel there. First I inquire, how is the climate there? What kind of clothes I should keep? Is it very cold there? I'll keep woolen clothes. If it's very hot there, I'll accordingly keep cotton clothes with me. And I'll find out what all is required, what kind of ambience exists. So we prepare for that journey. Even for short journey, 1 day, 2 day journey also we prepare. But how about such a long journey where we are preparing for a new body altogether? That requires more preparation, and it all goes via death. Death basically is the moment wherein we are undergoing the test. What all we have done in our lifetime, it's all going to get captured in those final moments of death. And there are many ways how we can increase or gain information, gain knowledge about that. There can be 3 ways. When we hear from others, authentic sources through Guru, Shastra, Sadhu, we hear from them, we believe them, follow them in our life. Second is we want to wait. No, first I want to undergo and see how it is going to be, learning from our own practical experience. Generally, it doesn't work because after that, we are not alive to see it, or we don't even remember. We have so many times we have undergone death, but we don't remember it. And then we have undergone, we have heard it from others, but still we do not learn. That is the worst scenario. And especially in the case of death, other 2 things don't hold good. It's only the first source that we have to rely upon, what our Guru, Sadhu, and Shastras say, because we don't remember any of the other sources. We don't know, we have undergone death, but we don't know, we don't remember it. So relying on the Shastras, we'll try to understand more and more about it. And as a new body, as we have to accept a new body, it's going to be defined by our consciousness at the time of death. And it is mentioned in Garud Puran very clearly that when a person is on the deathbed, that time they are reminded the whole whatever past deeds they have done in their lifetime, they're reminded of that. It's all like, it's like a movie taking place. That time they are reminded of that, but they cannot do anything. They are just helpless. So if somebody has spent their lifetime in chanting the holy name of the Lord, definitely it's going to help them. uh, I don't know how many of you watch televisions and all, but once I did happen to watch a serial. It captures about the experiences of people who have seen death from very close quarters, and most of them mention about this particular aspect, how they were reminded of their deeds, their past deeds, their attachments to their family, to or to different objects, their different desires which were lying dormant. They were not even aware of that in their lifetime, but suddenly those dormant desires, they just become active at that particular moment. The karma. So all these factors, they define our new body. So what will be the next destination? Here Krishna's words we are quoting. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tyajati ante kalevaram. This is what we discussed just now. What kind of consciousness we are having in those crucial moments, that is going to define what is going to be our next destination, what body will we get, which place we will go. It is all defined by our consciousness in those last moments. Tam tam evaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitah. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. Prayana kale मनसा चलेन भक्त्या योग बलेन चैव भ्रुवोर मध्ये प्राणम अवेश्य सम्यक सतम परम पुरुषम उपैति दिव्यम. One who, at the time of death, fixes his life hair between the eyebrows and in full devotion engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord will certainly attain to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here Krishna is assuring how consciousness at the time of death defines our destination. So those people who are very fortunate, who have practiced, and they are able to remember Krishna, like this is the yoga system which is being given. They are able to fix their life hair between the eyebrows. They are able to focus upon the Lord with full devotion. They are definitely going to attain the Supreme Lord's loka. But then what about others? So here we will go to the experience of death in different categories, how it happens. It can be for a Vaishnava who is a pure devotee of the Lord. For him, no problem at all. Here we can see the Vishnu Dutas are there with a beautiful airplane to take that person along to the spiritual planet. Here we can see Dhruv Maharaj. And we have many more such incidents, not just in Bhagavatam, even otherwise. When we go in Maharashtra, there's a place where Garudaji himself came to take one saint along. The tree is still there where he seated, where he perched. So these kind of incidents have taken place. It's not a speculation or something. For Vaishnava, Krishna directly interferes with everything and he sends his Vishnu Dutas to take that person. For him, the experience of death is a blissful one because he's going to the Lord whom he adores, whom he loves. So for him, it's a reunion with the beloved. So there's no pain. In fact, there's a rejoice. This is happening in the case of a pure devotee, pure Shuddha Bhakta. And then second cases of a Sadhaka Bhakta. He has not attained 100% purity or 100% perfection. Yet, Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, he interferes. And here in this picture, we can see the Ajamila incident, those who are familiar with Srimad Bhagavatam, they will be aware. Ajamila was not a Shuddha Bhakt. He was a very nice Brahmin who had been following, but due to certain reasons, due to certain temptations, he went astray. He was not able to follow. But then fortunately, he had a son by the name of Narayan. And when his last moment came, that time he was not able to bear the pain and he started calling out for his youngest son, Narayan. And that particular, when he was calling out for Narayan's name, he was thinking of his son. But then Krishna is so merciful, he sent his Vishnu Dutas to protect him. So Krishna, it's out of his causeless mercy, he definitely interferes in both the situations. If one is a sadhaka bhakta or one is a totally pure, perfected bhakta, he was given second chance. We may not be given second chance as such, but then every step that we take in developing our bhakti towards his lotus feet, it definitely doesn't go in vain. He'll definitely help us in different ways. So swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even the smallest of the deed that we do to serve him, it doesn't go waste. It can manifest, his mercy can manifest in any form. It can manifest in the form the way it happened in the case of Ajamila. It can happen in the way like we are given a new, better body, more conducive body to practice bhakti. It can be in any way, but his mercy is definitely there. So this is the experience of death of a sadhaka bhakta. And third is experience of death of a totally materialistic person who is not a Vaishnava at all, who has spent his whole lifetime in sense gratification or in sinful deeds. So what happens in that particular situation? There it is really painful. In both the situations, in the previous two slides, you must have seen there were Vishnu Dutas in the picture who had a beautiful, attractive form. But here you can see right behind that person who has left his body, there are two very fierce looking creatures, and they are just pulling out his subtle body, his soul actually, from the material body. Those who are fond of horror movies, they can they'll get that opportunity to see that at the last moment, which is more horrifying than the movies that one sees. And then we go on to death experience, further understood. In Garuda Puran or in Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned very clearly by Prabhupada, and Krishna explains there. How is death? We have never seen, at least I have never seen, death being explained as something very, very blissful. It is always seen or viewed as something very painful. Generally, it is painful because generally people take to the path of sense gratification. They don't take to the path of bhakti. So it is generally painful. But there is non-painful one also. But very few people experience that non-painful one. Generally, it is painful. And how much more painful it is? I remember a few years ago, in 2015 perhaps, Kartik Mas, my husband had gone out on a village preaching tour. So in that tour, every day they would cover one village, and there was no place where they could make arrangements for staying. They would go to one village, randomly select one village, do some preaching activity there. They had gone with a complete kit, and they will look out for some place like a temple or under a tree. They will spend the night, and again they'll get up in the morning, go to another village, start with their preaching activity and all. So like this they were going on. And in one such village, they were sleeping in a temple. They had a small village temple, so they thought they will spread the sheets there and spend the night. So they slept there, and morning, I think he must have got up around 3:30 something. He took shower, and as he was coming to that parapet portion, there suddenly one scorpion bit him. It was definitely very painful. And later on, when I was asking him, he said it's like one hot smoldering block, smoldering coal has been kept on one's body. It's that painful. So one scorpion bite is like keeping a burning, smoldering coal on that particular portion. Imagine how painful it would be when 40,000 such smoldering coals are kept on us. That much is the pain of a death. The gross tattvas that we studied in the previous slides, all those tattvas, they all start rising. When we have simple cough, we have phlegm rising in our body. We are not able to breathe at night. It chokes our breath. Imagine all those fluids, all the body fluids, they start rising at the same time. How painful it would be. So physically also, it becomes very, very painful. It's extremely painful. And besides that physical pain, we have the pain on the emotional level also. We are getting separated from all the people whom we love. Like I have problem of hair loss. When I see, oh, I have lost hair, it pains me. Though it's not a painful thing. Like when the hair is falling, it's not a painful process. But then my attachment to that particular hair makes the hair loss painful. Here it's a mere hair. But what about the situation when we are losing our whole body? So that degree of attachment defines how painful it is. So those who are detached, they will not experience so much of pain because they are detached. If somebody is on that plane of realization that I'm not this material body, I'm a spirit soul, not information or not just knowledge, total self-realization, they will not experience pain. But those who have not come to that plane, those who still have attachments, they will experience pain. They will experience a lot of pain. So that way, the experience of death is extremely painful, physically, emotionally, and otherwise. But as I said just now, those who have taken to the path of bhakti, who have come to the pain of realizing that they are spirit souls, they will not experience. For them, it's non-painful. One may think that soul is so tiny that its size has been mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Not hair, tip of the hair. If that is divided into 10,000 parts, that is the size of soul. So when that tiny soul has to come out of the body, why is it creating so much of hullabaloo there inside the body? It's all our attachment, which is making that separation of soul from the material body so painful. It may be tiny, but then it is defining how what our destination will be, why we are getting trapped in this vicious cycle of birth and death. So now we will move on. Two types of death. One is Sakala Mrityu and the second one is Akala Mrityu. The moment a soul gets a body or is given a body, few things are predetermined. What will be the time span? What will be the lifespan of that person? It is already defined. So a person who lives that lifespan and then the death comes at the due time, then it is called Sakala Mrityu. And second one is Akala Mrityu. Suppose a person's lifespan is, say, 75 years, but he dies in accident or for whatever reason. Before that, say he was supposed to live for 75 years, but then he died in an accident at the age of 60. Then that is Akala Mrityu. For those balance years, for those 15 years, that soul has to wander in the subtle form, in the form of a ghost. Spend that balance time, and then that soul has to undertake the journey, which we will be discussing in the coming slides, what the journey will be. But that course one has to, there's no escape route for that. So how does one take up the journey? When it is Sakala Mrityu, timely death, then the soul starts with its journey immediately. And when it is Akala Mrityu, that soul has to wander for the balance of the time. And after that, its journey starts. And in the journey, all these things will make a difference. It's karma, it's going along with that. It's going with along with its consciousness. All the vasanas, desires, they all go along. Generally we say, khali haath aaye the, khali haath jayenge. Khali haath jayenge is referring only to the material accomplishments that we have. Those things we cannot take along, but then we definitely carry along with us our karma, our consciousness, our all kinds of desires that are taken along. Then what happens immediately after death? Now, death we have understood, types of death we have understood, what is the experience that we have kind of understood. And then we are moving on to this one. What is happening immediately after that? Death has taken place, then what is happening? Soul is there now. Soul has already been pulled out from its gross body, from its material body by the Yamadutas. Yamadutas, Yamaraj is different, and they are Yamadutas. They are the messenger of the god of death. So Yamadutas are definitely not very good looking. They are very fierce, very ferocious. Otherwise, one would not really listen to them. So their job is that of a Muslim. They just come forcibly, they take out the soul. They have a pash, they have a noose. With that, they catch hold of the subtle body, the soul, and then it is taken towards Yamalok. Immediately after that, it happens within seconds. And this route is a very different route. They take a shortcut aerial route immediately in front of Yamaraj. So Yamaraj sees the soul, confirms, fine, this is the right one. And then he orders them, he orders his kinkaras, he orders his servants to take the soul back on the earth. For 13 days, that departed soul, which has just left its body, that wanders there only for 13 days on earth. It hasn't started the journey. It was just taken. It takes only a few seconds because this is a different route altogether. To Yamaraj, it has been face to face with Yamaraj, brought back again on this planet. And then it wanders there for 13 days. It generally comes back to the same house where it left its body, or the place where it feels that its loved ones are there. And it keeps a distance of 1 mura. 1 mura is generally like one arm length, half arm length. At that distance, it just keeps wandering because of the deep attachment that it has. And as long as the dead body is there, that is why generally, according to our Shastras, if we go strictly by that, if a person leaves the body during daytime, then it is advised that that person is cremated as soon as possible. Cremation is not done at night time, but daytime it should be cremated as soon as possible. But if the person has departed at a moment where it cannot be cremated immediately, maybe it's evening time, night is fast setting in, then they have to wait for next day. Because when the soul returns, it has deep attachment, it tries to enter the body again. Of course, Yamdutas, they try to stop the soul, but then it makes an attempt to do so. It makes it the whole thing, when they see the body, they are not able to enter. They are trying so hard, but they cannot enter. They are just being pulled back very violently. The whole thing becomes very, very painful for the departed soul. So it is advised in our Shastras that this particular samskar, antin samskar, is done as soon as possible. And there is nobody, no jiva, who can actually escape death. Everybody is subject to death, be it a small species or a big species, whatever may be the size, however powerful they may appear, be it a small bacteria whom we can't see or a small ant which is so tiny and not so strong, to a tiger or elephant or somebody so-called intelligent like human beings. Nobody can escape death. Everybody is subject to death. Now, in order to understand all these things, I have just kept a few shlokas from Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, wherein eternity and indestructibility of soul is established. Veda vinashinam nityam yaenam ajam avyayam. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable, kill anyone? Here we are coming to know about the different aspects of soul, because we'll be studying its journey. We'll see many things there. So in order to understand that, and with proper understanding, with proper dimension, it is important that we keep reminding ourselves of different attributes of soul. So in this particular verse, eternity, its indestructibility is established. How it cannot undergo change, its immutability. These aspects are strengthened or emphasized. And then its tininess, its minuteness. We discussed it just now. That tip of the hair, when that is being divided, that is the size of the Atma. In 10,000 parts, if we divide the tip of the hair, that is the size of the soul. So it may be very tiny, but it can create havoc. And there is never a time where there is a merger, that after death we will merge with Supreme Brahman. Those things don't happen. That individuality is always maintained. There has never been a time when he was not there, we were not there. It will always continue to be so. Even when we go to his loka, not that we merge with him, our individuality is maintained. So na tam evaham jatu nasham, na tam neme janadhipa, na chaiva na bhavishyama, sarve vayam atah param. So here Krishna is telling Arjun that there was never a time when you didn't exist, I didn't exist, or these people, these kings who were there in participating in the battle of Mahabharat, they didn't exist. So all these individual souls whom we see around, they'll always be there. We'll also be there with our individuality. There's no escaping from that. So we have to see how we can make our journey more and more comfortable for us. And body is just a covering. This one we studied just now, so we won't repeat it. And now we'll come to basic principles of Shaucham during this period. Like after death, there are so many ceremonies taking place. We'll not go into the details of the ceremony. If the need we make it, maybe we can have an exclusive session on that. But generally, the ritual impurity or ashaucham is observed for 10 days or 13 days, depending upon the varna of the person. Generally in English, they use the word caste, though it does not convey the exact meaning. But according to the caste of that person, or varna of that person, in higher castes or higher varna, it is generally of 13 days, in others it's of 10 days. Depends how it is. So that period is considered the period of impurity. There are a lot of ceremonies attached to that to come out of that. And after birth of a child also, there is the period of impurity or ashocha, that is called sutakam. And after death, it is known as Mritakam. So for example, if the family is Brahmana, their contamination period is of 12 days. For the Kshatriya and Vaishyas, it is of 15 days. And for Shudras, it is of 30 days. Like it's increasing. Generally, Brahmana is expected to know the Brahma Gyan. So his degree of attachment will be lesser. It is expected to be lesser than the people coming from other Varnas. So the period of contamination is also lesser for that Varna. And then in this period, we have anybody who is familiar with Bhagavad Gita, in the very first chapter, Arjun emphasizes on Pindakriya. He says he will not fight the Mahabharat war, though so many atrocities were perpetrated on the Pandavas by Kauravas. They were cheated. They tried to kill the Pandavas on so many occasions in so many ways. They tried to take away, usurp their kingdom. They tried to disrobe Draupadi. They did all kinds of atrocities. But despite all that, Arjun says, no, he will not fight. He gives few reasons. And one of the very important reason that he gives is that in the war, so many people will die. So many men will lose their lives. And after that, the women who are left behind, they will not be protected. And they will have progenies who are Varnashankaras. And since they are Varnashankara, they will not be following the traditions and the ceremonies. The tradition of giving pinda dan kriya, that will be gone. So I don't want to fight the war. So pinda dan kriya is very, very important. He says very clearly, Lupta pindodaka kriya. So this is a very important aspect, that this in itself shows how important the Pindadan is. Now I'll just recap. A soul has died. It is taken to Yamaraj, sent back to the planet for 13 days. And during those 13 days, its material body is anyways gone. It has the form of a preta. That time it is called preta technically. And then it's new because it has to undertake a journey to Yamalok, which is going to take 1 year. That is why those who are born in India, they know that for 1 year, somebody has died in the family, they will not do anything auspicious or anything happy. Like no marriages will take place or something which is associated with that celebration, jubilation as all. Those things are not undertaken because that time for 1 year period, that departed soul is on the journey, is traveling towards the Yamaloka. That is why it is not done. So in those, for that journey, a different body is given to that soul. That body is called Pindaj body. Pindaj body is made of the Pindadan that is being done during the ceremony. That makes the body, that Pindaj body. That's a subtle body, and it has two main attributes. It's also called uh, ativahik sharira. Ativahik means it has more element of vayu in that, and it can travel very fast. So that is one attribute. And second is because there are many things waiting for that soul ahead, not so pleasant things. So in order to make that body undergo lot of torture and feel the pain to a greater degree, the sensibility of that body is many times more than what we have in our present body. So it is more samvedanashil, it is more sensitive, it is more fragile, but at the same time it won't die. Whatever tortures are perpetrated there, it won't die. So now this body is getting formed of the Pindadan. So it's also called Pindaj body or Yatana Sharira, which we'll study later on in detail. Now in Pindaj body, how it is getting formed? So this Pindadan, it continues for 10 days, and every day a portion gets formed. With the first Pinda, the head part gets formed. In the second day, with the second Pinda, its ears, eyes, nose, these sense organs get formed. And third Pinda, its neck, shoulder, arms, and chest gets formed. With the fourth Pinda, navel and other private parts get formed. With the fifth Pinda, the thighs, calves, legs, feet, these organs get formed. And sixth Pinda helps in forming all the vital organs like heart, liver, kidney, other such vital organs. And with the seventh Pinda, the nerves, veins, the nervous system, these things are getting formed. Eighth Pinda, it helps in forming the teeth and hair. Ninth Pinda, we have all the body fluids. They get formed like blood, other fluids of the body, semen and all, they all get formed. So now by the ninth day, it's almost complete, not totally, but almost complete. And on the 10th day, whatever little is left over, that gets completed. And then it starts experiencing severe hunger. That is why we have the system of, or the tradition of, feeding the Brahmanas on the 11th day or on the 13th day, because through them, the hunger of the departed soul or this Pindaj body which has got, it gets satisfied. And every time the Pinda is offered, it's given, Pindadana is done, it's divided into 4 parts. Not that the complete Pindadan will go towards the making of that. It's divided into 4 parts. And how is it divided? We'll see now. The first quarter goes to the Yamadutas. There'll be generally 4 Yamadutas. So those 4 Yamadutas get 1/4 of the dan that has been done. And the second quarter of the Pinda, it goes to the deceased person who has died. He takes it, he eats it, he consumes it. How? By smelling. And the other half, third and fourth quarter, they are used for forming the body, the Pindaj body that is getting formed. So whenever Pinddan is done, not that the complete 100% will be utilized towards making of the body, that will be divided. So first quarter will go to the Yamdutas, second quarter will be consumed by the departed soul, and the other 2, third and fourth quarters, they will be used for the formation of the body. And the size of this Pindaj body is very tiny. It's just the size of a thumb. But it may sound very scary, but then it's always beneficial to fill the atmosphere with the chanting of the holy name. It helps not just the departed soul, but even those who are left behind. Those who are left behind, they gain the strength to face the calamity, and the departed soul who is already undergoing so much of pain, he gets to know the reality of life, what should be done, and the holy name actually helps him in developing the detachment and getting the benefit of holy name. So holy name should always be chanted. Then we have performance of charity during the last rites. Whatever is done now, it is affecting the departed soul and the people, those who are behind. How? If the sons, they perform the last rites sincerely, Yamraj has the power. He has been empowered by the Lord to reduce the punishment of the past sins of that person. If he wants, he can increase the punishment, he can decrease the punishment. or it can go as it is, the way it is, as per the system, without showing any mercy or any favor. And Pinda body is temporary body given to undertake the stupendous journey to Yamapuri. That journey we will study what actually happens. Now the journey hasn't started. The soul is still here only. How the journey is going to be, how difficult it's going to be, we'll see later in our next session. But then for that, preparation is going on. Charities, they help make the sufferings ease relatively, like it's reduced marginally. For example, if the rituals are done properly, he is allowed to travel on a vehicle. Earlier, there was a custom of giving some kind of vahan in charity. So if that is given, it is mentioned in Garuda Puran that person will not go just walking. They'll get a vehicle. They'll go on a horse or something. Or if they gave some paduka or slippers or footwear to the Brahmana, they need not walk barefoot on the burning sand. So he can walk. And if they give umbrella, they'll get the umbrella. They will not have to face the scorching sun. If it will be there, because it is mentioned that the heat on the way is of 14 suns being lit together. Here one sun, and in the summer season it gets so difficult that we need AC for that. Imagine when there are 14 suns lighting the whole path, how it will be. Extremely difficult, in fact, beyond imagination. So to save it relatively, comparatively, to save it from that situation, he'll have little shade of an umbrella. So like that, whatever charities are being made during this time, they help the departed soul. And this whole journey, it takes about 353 days. It excludes the 13 days which it has spent here on earth as Sukshma body, in Sukshma body. So rest of the 353 days, these charities are going to help in the coming 350 days, 53 days. So on 13th day, a family gathering is generally done and many homas are done, praying to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna or other gods according to one's consciousness. So these systems are observed. And here you can see one slide dedicated to this. There is special role of Gomata. We will study later when we have the second session, we'll study all that. Here I'm just giving a passing reference. There is special significance of charity given to in these particular rituals. In many places, it is mentioned in Garuda Puran that such donations to qualified Brahmanas, it's recommended. It's mentioned qualified Brahmanas. It's very important. Of course, in Kali Yuga, it's very difficult. But then if Krishna's mercy, there we may be able to find. So it is observed that people in Kali Yuga also have to do them. Many people say, no, we have taken to the path of bhakti. We need not do that. We are not Shuddha Bhaktas. That is why for us, Mahaprabhu has himself set an example. He himself did this right for his father. He went to Gaya. We are not greater than him. So we should follow these systems. The main purpose of these rituals is to make the Brahmanas happy, make Go Mata happy, because they are especially dear to Krishna. Go Brahmana Hitaye Cha. And they're depending only on the donations. The Brahmanas are expected to rely and depend only on donations given for Vedic rituals and all. So as per the Vedic test, performing rituals and getting the donation is the only profession recommended for Brahmanas. So those who are following it, this way it helps them. And since it helps them, Krishna also becomes happy. Of course, we'll be discussing later on. Here I'm just giving a passing reference because we have so many more things to cover. And Brahmanas actually take the responsibility when they accept something, when they accept a charity, they are taking risk also, because their karma gets transferred to them. Karma doesn't leave a person in whatever form that soul would be, in whatever stage that soul would be. but karmas, they just follow the comparison. The analogy that is given is just as a calf, you leave it in thousands of amidst thousands of cows, it will just go and recognize its mother. Same way, the karma also follows the person. But when a person does charity or these kind of rituals very sincerely with holy name and all, they get divided, they get shared. So it makes the journey easier for the departed soul. In what mood should we observe the ceremonies? One should try to spend more and more time with the Lord in the form of his name, in the form of his holy name, his chanting, his instructions. There should be more and more reading of Bhagavad Gita, Garud Purana, more meditation on Srimad Bhagavatam, on his pastimes, on the pastime of his devotees. This is what even Parikshit Maharaj did when he came to know that his death is very near. So one has to keep one's consciousness fixed at the lotus feet of the Lord. And when we remember his holy name in the form of chanting, it makes the whole process a lot easier. This way, we are also able to extricate ourselves, pull ourselves out from grief. And at the same time, we are helping the departed soul also get some merit, get some spiritual benefit. We are able to bring the departed soul in the right consciousness. So this is why these things should go on simultaneously. Besides all the ceremonies, these things should go on. When I was reading Garud Puran, there they have mentioned the ceremonies and traditions in such great detail that I was wondering, oh, it is impossible to do it in this age. Many things are bordering on impossibility. So we should try to do as much as possible. But at the end of everything, there Krishna mentions Garud Purana is no lesser or inferior to Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is revered because it is coming from the lotus lips of the Lord, of the Supreme Lord Krishna himself. Same way, Garud Purana also has been spoken by the Lord to his Vahana before he accepted him as his carrier. He spoke this knowledge to Garud. So it's no lesser than Bhagavad Gita. He gives complete knowledge. It's beautiful. It's very beautiful. So he's saying, after giving all those ceremonies, and when I was thinking, oh my God, it's impossible. How will we do this? Then he mentions, take my name. It will help you. So one must always keep oneself in the shelter of the holy name and try to extend the same shelter of holy name to the departed soul also. And there should be a mood of sacrifice, trying to benefit the soul, trying to benefit the others, trying to benefit all the entities around, sometimes even at the expense of our own comfort. This should be the mood of a Brahmana also, that I'm ready to take the risk for the sake of this person. When that kind of compassionate mood we have, it actually helps and benefits. One may think, how does it happen? But it does happen even in our movement. ISKCON, any person who recommends a new person, a new devotee to the Guru for taking Diksha, that person has to partake the karma of the new person. If I'm recommending somebody for initiation, then I have to share the bad karma of that person. So one is doing it. It is done. That kind of compassion should be there in one's heart. And now all this, the journey hasn't started. The soul's journey will begin. It's yet to begin. And there are three ways to reach that destination. One is for those who are destined. Their acts were very pious, their deeds were very pious. Their destination is for higher planetary system. So they are taken a different route, which is not so difficult. And those who have led a very sinful life, their route is really replete with all kinds of tortuous experiences. Here we can just see a snapshot of that. but we can take to this destination, reaching Krishna's Loka and serving him there and participating in his pastimes. It depends on us which route we want to take. And how do we do that? How do we attain that? Just keep chanting his holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Ram, Hare Hare. If we can do that always, it will be really wonderful. And most importantly, it is transcendental to all the situation and all the circumstances. As we say, Om Apavitra Pavitrova, Sarvavasitam Gatopiva. It has so much of potency because it's not different from the Lord. It has the potency of purifying the apavitra, which is not pure. It can purify the impurest of the things. It has the potency to, in any situation, it can be chanted. Sarvavasthitam. In every avastha, in every situation, it gives the sadgati. And yes, Maret Pundirikaksham, Sa Bahya Abhyantaram Shuchihi. And whoever is taking to his lotus feet, whoever is chanting, he gets internal as well as external purity, Shuchihi, purity. So this way, if we take shelter of his lotus feet and his holy name, it's definitely going to help us. In the next session, we'll try to study the rest of the 253 days. 353 days of the journey. Because in the first 13 days, journey is not undertaken. There's a preparation for the journey which goes on. So with this, I conclude the first session and I welcome questions or any kinds of doubts. I'll try my best to answer. Hare Krishna. I can see one
Hare
hand
Krishna
up.
Mataji, and pranams.
If there is somebody who would like to coordinate the question and answer session, I don't mind.
Yes, sure, Mataji. Anupama Mataji, she is host. She can unmute all other Matajis.
Yes, ma'am.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
The Mataji is there, ma'am.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandot Pranams. Thank you so much for very graphically explaining about the entire process. I literally had goosebumps when I was hearing throughout. Then I was thinking, oh my God, this is how it's going to be. But then immediately at the end, you mentioned take the names of the Lord and Harinam, and I'm like, okay,
Yes.
it's easy. So Mataji, if you would kindly permit me, I have two questions. The first one you mentioned about the Sakala Mrityu and Akala Mrityu. Sakala is at the prescribed time, whatever
Yes.
allotted time is given. So Akala is accident,
Untimely.
untimely.
Yes.
So are accidents also Akala Mrityu? Sometimes we hear of some young person all of a sudden leaving the body. So other than suicide, I meant, because suicide is people do it on purpose, which is, of course, they have to suffer for it. But accidents and stuff like that,
Yes, Mataji.
all of a sudden people
Unfortunately,
leaving the body.
accidents are
So,
also included in untimely death. Untimely death, it has been described very nicely in Garuda Puran. It says like people, the accidents that we see, that is untimely death. Or people who die because of consumption of poison, it may be given by others, that is also untimely death. Or suddenly a branch falls, tree falls on a person, or because of lightning. They have actually detailed all these things. So these kind of death resulting because of these situation is called untimely death. We may feel why accidents, we are nowhere responsible for that. See, in Bhagavatam, it is clearly mentioned, like in this age, Kali Yuga, we have Manda Buddhi and Manda Bhagya also. We think technologically we are progressing so much. We are having such nice vehicles and all. But because of these so-called vehicles and so-called progress, actually we are making our own life very difficult and miserable. Earlier, there was nothing called accident as such. We are using a bullock cart. What accident will take place?
Thank you so much, Mataji. You have clarified. Okay.
Yes.
I lost you in between, Mataji, but I understood. Yes, you're audible now. So you were mentioning about the accidents that they are also untimely, which are mentioned. Thank you so much for clarifying a long pending question in my mind, Mataji. Thank you so much. And Mataji, the other question, if you would permit me, I would like to ask. I have a second question.
I love to. Please.
Mataji, as you were mentioning about the Pindadan and all the process, I had seen in my family that for the first 1 year, they used to offer something every 1 month also, which is they used to call it Masik. So
Yes.
can you kindly tell for what they do it? Every month they do it till the first year passes.
Yes.
They
Yes.
do it.
It's a very, very important ceremony which should be done. Now we have covered only the first 13 days of the soul here. But after this, its journey is going to start and it will take about a year. 365 days are there in a year, minus 13 days. So we are left with 353 days. So there is a journey which is going to continue for 353 days. So for that journey, there will be 16 stations on the way. 16 Purams will be there. So at certain Purams, it is given a kind of opportunity to eat food. It's not that, okay, now I'm feeling hungry and I will be given food. It's not like that. On a fixed time, on a fixed day, it is allowed to take food. And that is the tithi on which for the rest of the year, the family people, they do this ceremony of giving some charity and offering the pinda. That is why it is very important. It should be done. It should be performed. I'm seeing these days, unfortunately, people are going for shortcuts and all, but that's not advisable. Generally, it happens when we do not know its significance, why it is done. We are doing it just because it was being done by our ancestors. But if we understand the science behind it, it gets a lot easier to have conviction in that and faith in that when we do it.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Mataji, may I know the reference for all of this?
Yes, it is there in Garud Puran, Lord's own words. It's all mentioned very clearly.
Always wanted to read from the young age, but my mother never allowed me to. She said, you should not read. This is not meant for you. So we had an old book, but then she never let me read that book.
Yeah, it happens here also. A few years ago, I used to conduct sessions on Garud Puran. Many people would just run away hearing the name, They'll say, we'll come for other things, but not for Garud Puran. Unfortunately, one more thing I would like to add to this is there are many versions available in the market. It is very, very important that we have a guided reading of Garud Puran. Otherwise, instead of benefiting from that study, we'll be harming ourselves. It can be the way we have so many versions for Bhagavad Gita. So we can arrive to wrong conclusions if it is not a guided reading. So I suggest that one goes for a guided reading. One must know, one should know these things.
Would you kindly refer any of the edition or the author which you are referring to?
Unfortunately, we don't have any devotee who has translated it. I refer to Gita Press, and with the mercy of my Guru and other Vaishnavas, I have been able to correlate it to Bhagavad Gita and I could assimilate many things. But then otherwise, I won't suggest somebody doing independent reading. One can have very wrong conclusions. So
yes, Mataji. So we'll hear from you then. Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes, Ati Chandra Mataji, you can ask question.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare
Dandavanam.
Krishna
Thank
Mataji,
you.
Vandat Pranam.
Thank you, Mataji, very much for such an informative class. I was not knowing much about this Pindadan and all. It is like in my family they used to do Pindadan, but I was not knowing much about it. So through your class only I came to know much about it, and I have not started reading still now Garuda Purana also. My doubt is, Mataji, this Pindadan, no, 9 days. You said that each day the body will form, no, one by one. So this we all are doing in India, all the Hindus. So those who are Christian, Muslim, they are not doing this all things. So what kind of the body they get that time during that journey?
It's like this, Mataji. Journey anyway has to be undertaken. One cannot escape it, whether one is a Christian or a Muslim or anybody of any faith. They have to take that journey. But if this Pindadan is done, they have a stronger body to undertake the journey. Like suppose now I'm in Hyderabad. Now I have to go to Vrindavan. I'm taking a train. It takes me 24 hours to reach Vrindavan. If I have made the necessary preparation, I have kept prasadam packed with me, it is a lot easier for me to take that journey. But for a person who has just gone and seated there with no prasadam, no water, that person will also reach. But it will have a very difficult journey. So same way, everybody has to undertake that journey. There's no escape route for that. But since they have not been prepared for that, their body becomes even more fragile. Already it's very tortuous, and one is adding to the torture and torment. And that's why we are very fortunate to be born in Bharatvarsha actually. Knowingly or unknowingly, we follow these traditions, we follow these ceremonies.
Okay, Mataji. And Mataji, one more thing you said, the 1/4 part of it will go to Yamaraj. Sorry.
Yamdutas.
Yamduta. Yeah, why? Why they will also get the...
Yes. That is why what happens, suppose a person, the family who is left behind, they are not following the traditions, they are not following the ceremonies. What will happen? Now these Yamdutas are waiting for their food. They will not get. They have to show their anger. They will beat up that soul. Now we have just yesterday, Pitru Paksh got over. Why do we observe that? This is observed for our Pitrus, for our ancestors. They get 1 day. If they are in Pitru Loka, they get 1 day. For their 1 day, it converts or translates to 15 days here on earth. So during that time, they can come and accept food here. Now for those families who are not observing this for their ancestors, they will come here, they will wait for the food. They will not get. Then what will happen? They will curse their family people. It's called Pitrushrapa. It's called Pitrushrapa. It all comes in Bhagavad Gita also. In the first chapter, very first chapter, all these things come. This is what is scaring Arjun so much. No, I don't want to undertake the battle of Mahabharata. I will not do it. I will not fight, because so many people will die and those women will be left unprotected. They will have unwanted progenies, and unwanted progenies will not follow the traditions and ceremonies. This Pindadaka Kriya will be totally gone. Then they will have to face these kind of situations. So this is a very, very important thing which should be done.
Okay. And mother, usually son will only do this the Pindadan and all this. But what about those who have only daughters? Who will?
There are many options given in Garuda Puran. There are many options. Even the daughter's husband can perform these rites.
Okay.
These days, I'm seeing a rising trend that people give the justification of equality in gender and all that, and they say even girls can. Generally, it should be avoided because it is mentioned that one may perform the ceremony, but it will get wasted in the antariksh. It doesn't reach. It doesn't reach. For example, like here I'm using Wi-Fi. for connecting myself to this. And I say, oh, I can't see the Wi-Fi waves. Now I will have a similar instrument and I will use it as Wi-Fi. Will it work? I need to have all the gadgets in place, whether I can see with my eyes or not. It may not be grossly visible, but it is there. This is how it connects. So that particular body, male body, facilitates in performing that ceremony. Otherwise, we may perform, but its result will not reach the required or the desired destination. So it's better if it is better means this is how it should be done. This is what is Krishna's instruction. It's something like a man says, no, I will also bear a child. It's not possible. It's not possible. So we have been given certain duties. Same way they have been given certain duties to perform.
Okay.
Hope
Thank
it clears.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you very much, Mataji.
Yes, Sam Sundari Mataji, you can ask question.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranams.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Krishna. Mataji, I wanted to ask, many doubts have been cleared with all the questions. But I wanted to ask that Paramatma is also there with the soul
Yes.
till the death. So what happens that time? Does the Paramatma leave us for the further journey?
That is the beauty. He never abandons.
Yeah, so he is
Whatever
always
may be
there
the
with us.
situation. Yes, all the time. All the
Okay.
time. That is why in every situation, in every condition, one has the option of becoming Krishna Mukha instead of becoming Vimukha, turning our head opposite to him in the opposite direction. We always have the opportunity of placing our faith in him, in Krishna's mercy. What we say na, avashya rakhe be Krishna.
Mm.
So he is always there to protect us. He will always protect us, but we are choosing not to turn our head in that direction. See, Shivaji has been given that responsibility. Shivaji's other name is Bhutanath. So even those who are in the subtle forms, in the form of a ghost, they also have the opportunity to surrender to Krishna. In every state, whatever we are in, one can always remember him. That's the most beautiful part. Generally, we don't do, but that's the most unfortunate situation.
Yeah. And Mataji, one more thing I wanted to ask is, it just went off my mind, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, I'll ask maybe next. Mataji, this thing. Mataji, many a times these days we see that few families, they say that हमारे पीछे पता नहीं कोई करेगा कि नहीं करेगा तो हम अभी से ही किसी को सौंप देते हैं. So is that right to do?
Yes, in Garud Purana it mentions that in Gaya we have this facility, we can do this, wherein I can perform Shraddha for my own self.
Okay.
It is there, but at the same time, we cannot escape the responsibility of passing on this information to the new generation. What about them? Isn't it? We may be able to take care of our own soul selves, but then our generation, our coming generation, even they have to undergo death. There's no escape route to that. It is ineluctable. So what about them? They will be undergoing, they will be suffering. So we should pass on. It is our responsibility to pass on this information to the next generation. That is why in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is clearly mentioned that those people who are not giving the knowledge whereby the children or the new generation or the dependents are delivered, they have no right to become parents. They have no right to become a leader, any kind of leader, be it a king or leader at any level. They have no right to become a guru because they are not able to ensure deliverance of their dependents. So we cannot escape ourselves from that responsibility. It is our responsibility to give that or pass on the stick of bhakti to our new generation. We have relay race, and we pass on that stick. Same way, we have to pass on bhakti to our new generation to protect our own selves as well as them. Otherwise, we can't say that we have love for our children. Real love manifests in these ways, wherein we are able to protect not just their body, but also their soul.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you. Thank you for a very nice, informative lecture today. Thank you,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Dandavat pranams.
Thank you,
My
Mataji.
Dandavat pranams to
Mataji,
all the devotees.
one question
Yes,
is there
Mataji.
in the chat, Mataji. Can we take? It is not too
Yes,
late.
yes, yes.
Mataji, question is like, untimely death, akal mrityu of a soul is pre-decided.
Yes. Today I was hearing a lecture from a devotee. He was mentioning it there. What will be the nature of death? That is also mentioned, that is also defined. That is also predefined. According to one's karma, it is predefined. But whatever predefinition, predetermination may be there, Prabhupada always mentions that anybody who takes shelter of the Supreme Lord, his line changes. So those things can always be changed. Right in the introduction of Bhagavad Gita, when we study the 5 subjects that Bhagavad Gita covers, we have Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, and then we have Karma. And Karma is the only thing which can be changed. So we have, Krishna has given us that room, you can change your destiny. So that thing is always there. So though that may be defined, but then one can change it. One can change the map. That is why we have karma. Otherwise, we'll say, oh, everything is already predefined. Where is my role? Why should I suffer? We are responsible for whatever we are facing. If we are not changing, means we have accepted it. Okay, yeah, I accept it this way. So we have this responsibility and we have the room to change it. Does it answer, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji. Mataji, can we take one more question?
I'm fine with that.
Yes. Mrinali Mataji, you can ask question.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Mataji, actually my question is, if someone had passed away, the relatives keep their photos and offer food daily. Is this correct or not, Mataji? It's a daily basis, like mother, if son passed away, means mother put photo and offering daily food for him, food for his photo, means is it correct or not, Mataji? Actually, this is recommended or not, Mataji?
It is mentioned in Garuda Purana. These ceremonies should be done. Generally, what happens, we don't understand the ceremonies in their full dimension and why it is being done. Then we end up doing the wrong way. For example, generally what they do is they will directly offer it to the departed soul, which is not so good. We should do it, but first we should offer it to the Lord, and that prasadam should be offered to the departed soul. That way it will have lot of spiritual benefit. It will definitely benefit the departed soul in a way we can't even fathom, we can't even understand. That way it will help. When we discuss the rest of the journey, that time we will see how every time we have chanted the name of the Lord, it's going to help us on the journey. Little smallest of the gesture of serving mother cow, how it helps, of serving a Vaishnava or a spiritual master, how that helps. All those things, nothing goes in vain. Nothing goes in vain. There are entities, they are called Shravana and Shravani. They are 8 in number. 8 Shravanas will be there, 8 Shravanis will be there. They are gigantic, they are like very huge, but they have been given the ability to read anybody's mind. Wherever they may be, they can hear whatever the other person is speaking. So there is nothing secret in our lives. And they are the ones who are maintaining our record. What this person thought, what this person did, what this person said. So they are the ones who are maintaining each person's record. So even if we have thought something good, it's not going in vain. It will all be taken into consideration. Of course, in the second session, we'll go in detail of these things. But at the beginning of Garuda Puran, it is mentioned there are few entities who can actually deliver a person. Who are those entities? One is Gomata, Mother Cow herself. She is very dear to Krishna. Anybody who is in some way connected to Krishna has the potency to deliver. Mother Cow is very dear to Krishna. She is very attached to Krishna, and that is why she has the ability to deliver a person. So Mother Cow has that ability. Then Tulsi Devi, she is Bhakti Pradayani. So Bhakti Devi has the potency to deliver a person. Third is Gangaji. She has come from the lotus feet of the Lord. So she has the power to purify a person and deliver a person. Fourth is a Vaishnava or a Brahman. He has the potency to deliver. And fifth is Bhagavad Gita. And sixth is Krishna himself and his holy name. So these 6 entities, they have the power to deliver a person. We have these options open in front of us. Now it's up to us how much we are trying to utilize that. But those opportunities are there.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Mataji, I have also one question. Like in Corona time, many people died without burning, or like their body was just thrown like that only. So what will happen to that body? No Kriya Karma or nothing, it has been done.
Yes. Actually, when I was seeing that, even I was thinking, I was feeling so bad about it actually. Because those ceremonies are very, very important. It's very important. See, even they will have to undertake the journey, but because just some time ago, Mataji asked, no, like what will happen to the people of different faith? They are not following these things. Same way here also, though they have followed, but then ceremonies were not done. So their body is not strong enough, but they will, nevertheless, they will have to undertake the journey. But fortunately for them who have taken the shelter of the Lord, they don't have to worry. It's a consciousness which makes a difference. That option is always open. Krishna's doors are always open. But those who have not taken his shelter and the ceremonies were also not performed, it's very unfortunate situation. Manda buddhi, manda bhagya.
Thank you, Mataji. Can we take one more question? There is in chat box, Mataji.
In Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada mentioned the devotees who worship Krishna deity, the deity himself would perform Shraddha ceremony. Yeah, why not? But then are we that pure? If we are that pure, then we don't have to worry for anything actually. As I said right in the beginning itself, like a Vaishnava, for him, death is something that he looks forward to. For him, it's an opportunity to reunite with his beloved. So if that is happening, he's just not bothered about this losing his material body and all. So whether Shraddha ceremony is done by the deity or not, that also does not make any difference because Krishna is also waiting for him to come back. But the problem is for those who are Krishna Vimukha. The problem is only for them. Or those who have taken to the path of bhakti, they have not reached perfection. For them also the journey will be a lot easier. But the journey will be there, of course. Different routes will be there. There are different routes. There's one pastime when we read about Janak Maharaj. Janak Maharaj is a very exalted devotee, Sita Devi's father. He is a Shuddha Bhakta. So what happens when he goes back? When he goes back, he is taken via hell. Via hell, not this route, the regular route that we will be studying in the coming session. but he's taken a route via hell. So when his chariot passes by, he can hear so many souls, so many people crying in pain. And when his chariot is about to cross, they all request him, please don't go, please don't go, don't move, please stay there for some more time. So he stops there. He tells his charioteer, you stop it. Who is calling me and why are they calling me? And he asks them. Then they say, no, the breeze, we are suffering so much, but the breeze which is touching your body and coming to us is blowing in our direction. That is giving us so much of soothing feeling. We are feeling that our whatever suffering we are undergoing here, that is getting reduced. There's a power of a Vaishnava. He is a Shuddha Bhakta. So when Janak Maharaj hears this, he tells his charioteer to stop there. He says, I will not go. In some way, if I'm able to help the suffering soul, let me be here only. I don't want to go any further. So he tells him to stop. And later on, when Yamaraj, he comes to know about that Janak Maharaj is standing outside. He comes running to take his darshan. He falls at his feet. He greets him. And then he says, why an exalted devotee like you is standing here? This hell is not meant for you. Why are you staying here? Why don't stand here? You move on. This destination is meant for those who have done a lot of abominable activities, lot of sins. So Janak Maharaj says, no, I will not move. Compassionate heart, that's the sign of a devotee. So he says, I'm not going to move because my presence is some way helping them. And there's a dialogue between the two, between Yamaraj and Janak Maharaj. Janak Maharaj does not yield. Then finally, he says, okay, you tell me on what condition you will leave, because I don't want an exalted devotee like your good self to be standing in front of hell. So he says the condition is only one, you deliver them. You leave them. You forgive all their sins, whatever it is, only then I will leave. And finally, Yamaraj cut short their punishment and they are all delivered. They are all freed. So we never know in what form. And then I was thinking, what was the sin that he did that he had to take that route? So basically it is meant to deliver those people. But the pretext was that once he happened to insult one mother cow. He did not pay obeisances to the cow. So because of that, he had to take this route. But Vaishnavas, in whatever state they are in, they are always connected to Krishna and they have the potency to deliver. So the opportunity to get delivered is always there as long as we are ready to take shelter of the Lord and his devotees. Hope it helps.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji, for such a wonderful class. It's too late for you also, Mataji. Kasturi Sachi Mataji will end the class.
Thank you very much, Mataji. Thank you for the enlightening session, Mataji, and thank you very much for giving your time in clearing so many doubts of us. We are eagerly waiting for your further sessions on this, Mataji. Sorry, we have taken your time and it is very late in India. It is around 10 o'clock. Sorry, very sorry, Mataji. And I request all Matajis to thank Her Grace Vrindavan Leela Mataji by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra and Vaishnava Pranam Mantra. Hare Krishna.